LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation, the Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, 2 weeks ago, I wrote a piece in the Daily Telegraph where I said, I fear that the great Brexit betrayal has begun. Oh, and everybody said I was over the top and I should give them time and wait and see what happens. Well, today, in my view, that became official government policy. Because what this paper put out today, and argued for by David Davis, says is that we are going to have an interim transitional arrangement whereby we will stay in a customs union with the European Union. So let's just think about this. We vote Brexit on June 23rd, 2016. It then takes the government 9 months to trigger Article 50, and then we're told, don't worry your poor little heads, we've got 2 years to sort it all out, and by the end of March 2019, we'll be out. Now we're told, oh, well, actually, chaps, there's going to be another waiting period. 2 years, perhaps 3 years. We hope to have it sorted out by the time of the next general election. And after all, we have to do this because big business wants it. We need to do what big business tells us. Well, these are the same big businesses, the same CBI organisation, who wanted us to join the euro, who wanted us to vote to stay part of the European Union, and who are now pushing for us to stay part of a customs union. They act in their own financial interests. They don't act in the interests of the country, least of all in the interests of the democratic will of the people of this country, as expressed in that referendum last year. And I feel that another couple of years, if it's that, it could be very much longer. What does it do? Well, it smacks to me of delay, of dither, of weak leadership without vision, and it lowers our standing in the world. Look, after Brexit, we had countries queuing up. We've had Japan, we've had India, we've had Australia, and of course the United States of America saying, come on guys, you're going to be free of all of this. Let's talk, let's do trade deals. The impact of what has been said today is that we would not be able to enact a free trade deal with anybody else until at least 2022. In fact, Donald Trump would be coming towards the end of his second term as president before we could put in place a trade deal with America. So I feel strongly about this. I do think the great Brexit betrayal has begun. I think the motivations behind it are clear. It's about bringing together a Conservative Party that is split, riven asunder on this issue. I think they're more worried about their party than they are the country and how many of you voted in that referendum last year. But of course, the point of this show is not just for you to agree with me. You may well disagree with me, fundamentally disagree with me. So please tell me if you think I'm getting it wrong. Tell me if you think this is pragmatism on behalf of the government or the start of the great Brexit betrayal as I see it. Whatever your view, call me please on 0345 6060 973. You can text in to 84850. You can tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage and LBC. And of course, you can watch us live on Facebook. And I'm going to West Wales, to Pembrokeshire, to Mark. Good evening.
Evening, Nigel. Nice to speak to you.
Well, nice to speak to you. And how do you feel about today's announcement, Mark?
Infuriated. Absolutely infuriated.
Yeah.
I have to say this, Nigel. I've got to bring this up really anyway. When the Brexit debate was going on, way back now, before the referendum result was coming, we all thought that we were going to leave. There was no doubt about it. And I used to listen to John Gaunt, and he was pretty sure, yeah, we're going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Then the polls, and then one day, because I was smitten really with an idea that I was going to put £1,000 and leave. But they kept on talking then that this could be rigged. So I chickened out and I just left it. So I lost out on that big time.
You did.
But the thing is, yeah. But the big problem I had was I never believed from that day forward would they ever do Brexit. And I followed UKIP when you got involved, and I heard you speaking and things like that. That really gave me motivation, and I've been motivated ever since. But of late, I've started to believe that, well, Tony Blair coming back, then David Miliband, and I said, why, they're all getting together now. But the thing is, I never believed for one moment he was leaving. Where was it that you believed that they would actually carry the will of the people.
Well, Mark, let's ask the question, are we going to leave the European Union? Yes, I think we are. I think if we were to be kept officially legally in the European Union, I think there would be a political rebellion in this country, the likes of which had never been seen, and I think that the leadership of the Tory party and Labour parties know that. But what I worry about, Mark, is that we'll leave in name only. I mean, after all, if this interim arrangement, this new transitional deal, means that for that period of time we go on paying contributions, we go on perhaps with open borders or something like open borders, and the European Court of Justice can still have a say over how this country is run, we'll ask ourselves, what on earth was the point of voting leave if effectively we're still there? So that, Mark, is how I see it.
Wouldn't you believe as well, mind you, that this is playing out to get another election in, another government in, to change the policy and the practice to leave the EU completely? Because I don't believe for an instant that they have any intentions of leaving us be.
Well, Mark, we'll have to see. This will play out over the course of the next few years. All I can say is, with every month that goes by, I, like you, Mark from Pembrokeshire, become more and more infuriated. Andy in Cardiff. Good evening, Andy.
Good evening, Mr. F. How are you?
I'm very well. Now, you're one of our regular callers, Andy, and a keen student of all of this. Have I got it right by saying I think the great Brexit betrayal has become official government policy or not?
I think you're absolutely bang on the money. My question to anybody that says it's not is, why on earth did the EU, after saying we will not negotiate with anybody apart from the UK, then start having tea and coffee mornings with MPs that were clearly anti-Brexit? And, were they discussing the niceties of the day, or were they actually discussing ways to put the spanner in the works?
Just to remind people, Andy, because people might not remember, that they're not as keen as students as you, but this was the idea that we could only negotiate with a central body for all 27. We weren't allowed to speak to countries individually, and they, in turn, would simply deal with the UK government. And, of course, what's happened is Nicola Sturgeon has been across to Brussels, Carwyn Jones from Wales has been across to Brussels, and Jeremy Corbyn has been across to Brussels. And it sort of looks to me rather like a sort of policy of divide and rule coming from them. But in terms, Andy, of a negotiation, I mean, it's very interesting, wasn't it? That there's David Davis saying, look, we want to be really reasonable EU, we want to effectively extend these arrangements, and absolutely slapped down immediately by Guy Verhofstadt in the European Parliament. I mean, I just get the feeling, Andy, my view is we're dealing with very unreasonable people.
Oh, absolutely. I think that what's happening is David Davis is in danger of actually losing his credibility. And he's actually trying to overcome that by saying everything's going okay, we're actually achieving X, Y and Z, and it's going smoothly. And then you've got Guy Verhofstadt and his cronies on the other side of the table saying, absolutely not, it's not going right, things are going really badly. And that's a negotiating stance of anybody on the opposite side of a table.
I mean, that would be a great shame, Andy, in my view. I like David Davis very much on a personal level. I shared platforms with him all over the country during the referendum campaign. I think he is very sincere in what he wants to do. I think his problem, Andy, is that the party that he's the chief negotiator for is split. You've got on the one side of the cabinet the Philip Hammonds, on the other side of it the Boris Johnsons, and I think, they're trying to steer a path through the middle that keeps the wretched Tory party together rather than getting on with the job. That's my view. Andy, as ever, we love to have your call. We have our regular callers. The last few nights they've all been first-time callers, but we always have some regulars like Andy that really follow this stuff very, very closely. Luca is calling from the delightful Brockenhurst in the New Forest. Good evening.
Hello, Nigel.
Hi there. So how do you feel about today's announcement?
So I think that I don't necessarily think it's a betrayal of any sort.
Okay.
I do think that the Tories are kind of putting the wedge in and taking things back and thinking about their party a bit more than the country.
Yeah, that's my view.
But we've got to think about the practicalities of this proposed customs union. In the interim period between now and, of course, when we get the free trade agreement, we have to have something that fills the gap, don't we?
If we get a free trade agreement. I mean, we should. I mean, logic, Luca, logic says that, of course, the EU should wish to carry on with us in a free trade arrangement. After all, they're selling us 60 or 70 billion pounds of the goods more every year than we're selling them. The trouble is that you've got Monsieur Barnier and my friend Mr Verhofstadt, and their worry is that if the UK leaves on what are seen to be good terms, everybody else will want to leave as well, and that's the problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But, I mean, if we don't have anything in place, I mean, think about the business implications. I mean, you won't be able to trade with the EU if we don't have any sensible terms in...
Well, look, let's just think about this. So, already, a majority of our trade is done with the non-EU world. And as you and I are speaking, there are containers from China being loaded on lorries in Felixstowe and other ports around Britain. You know, if we can manage to trade with the rest of the world with our Operation Stack on the Kent motorways every day, I'm sure we can do it with the European Union. And don't forget, actually, if the EU were to try and engineer an impasse with us on trade, they would have BMW and every other major country in Europe screaming down their neck. So I think business pragmatism... I mean, I understand what you're saying, that we need to put some technical rules in place to make this work. The bit, Luca, that gets me is that effectively we are kicking the can down the road. You know, we are delaying the point at which the will of the people has any possibility of being enacted, and it's now looking like 5 or 6 years at a minimum.
And I think that's absolutely outrageous. I mean, Theresa May needs to get her act together and sort everything out.
Talking of Theresa May, isn't it interesting that the first really official position we get on the most important issue of the day, and where's the Prime Minister? Still on holiday. Luca, I thank you very much for your call. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live from London, and it's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Ministers hope to strike a temporary deal with the European Union to retain the main benefits of the customs union for an interim period after Brexit. David Davis has bounded in to the studios. Are we paying this divorce bill?
We will meet our international obligations. Michel's getting quite cross with us, of course. And he's saying, oh, you should make your proposal. No, Michel, we want to go through line by line what you're asking for.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Hampton by Hilton. Book direct for the lowest price.
Every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Divorce can be expensive. It affects your finances, assets, home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. It's probably one of the toughest times you'll ever go through. Cordell & Cordell understands these issues and helps men maximise their roles in their children's lives. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Hi, I'm Nas with news if you're travelling to or from London this August and over the bank holiday. We're doing important work to deliver our railway upgrade plan and to bring us closer to completing some of our major rail improvement projects. Some services will be restricted and some will not be running, with no trains at all at London Euston on the 26th and 27th of August. So please, check before you travel at nationalrail.co.uk/August. or contact your train operator. Thanks for your patience. Network Rail, working for you.
Clive, Winston Wolfe. Whale music? You must be one stressed-out private landlord.
Yes, I am!
Your tenants are struggling financially and can't pay their rent. But you're with Direct Line. They'll repay any unpaid rent until your tenants are out. So drop the stress ball. It'll all be over soon. Ah, that's better.
Claim back unpaid rent after 1 month's arrears with rent guarantee. Can your insurance do that? Search Direct Line Landlord. Cover purchased as part of legal expenses add-on. Qualifying criteria apply. Restricted claims for existing tenants in the first 90 days when product first purchased.
Hi, I'm Michael Owen and I know what it's like to be injured. If you've been injured and it's not your fault, you need to speak to Gowing Law. Text WIN to 80800 and Gowing Law will do the rest.
Thanks, Michael. If you've been injured on the road or at work, Gowing Law could help you win thousands in compensation. We can tell you instantly what you might be owed. Find out right now and text WIN to 80800.
New Sky Sports is here. So now all our Sky TV customers can get our brand new channel dedicated to the Premier League for £18 a month. With 126 live games and a new weeknight debate show. Exciting, eh, Gary? If you don't have Sky TV, bundles start from £22 a month. Search New Sky Sports today to get our new Premier League channel.
Unbelievable!
Cancellation requires 31 days notice. New Sky TV customers, £20 setup fee, 18-month contract.
Moving house. Nightmare. I need a plasterer, plumber, electrician, builder, painter, locksmith, gardener, and somebody to move my valuables, the drinks trolley. Relax, relax. It's Trust a Trader. They have all the tradespeople you can think of, reputable and reviewed, so you always get a job well done. Well done me, I say, for getting it all sorted. I shall reward myself with a cheeky tipple from the trolley. Chin chin, pass me the gin. Visit trustatrader.com.
TrustAtrader.com. The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
So we're going to stay in a customs union with the European Union for some years after we apparently leave the European Union. And that leaves people like me, yes, infuriated, to quote one of our earlier callers, and feeling that the great Brexit betrayal has begun. But maybe you think it's a sensible, pragmatic thing to do. On Twitter, Nathan says to me, in today's society, isn't what is good for business and the economy also good for us all? Stop your crusade. Well, Nathan, let's have a think about this, matey, shall we? They want open-door immigration, the lowest possible wages. Oh, and Nathan, they wanted us to join the euro, which would have been a catastrophe. No, what is good for giant multinational businesses is not necessarily, in fact, almost in my view, unlikely to be what is good for the whole country. Why do I get the feeling that Nigel Farage isn't going to be happy tonight? Does he worry about having a soft Brexit, says Mark on Twitter? Well, I worry that we're going to finish up with Brexit in name only. But I get by text, Nigel, I couldn't give a damn about what big business think. All they care about is their bottom line, not our historical right to govern ourselves. Mr. Farage, when will you get it? The UK will never leave the EU, says Jimmy. Jimmy, believe me, it will. It will. It's just going to take, I'm afraid, a bit longer than perhaps it should have done. Janet says to me on Facebook, I don't want anything to do with the EU. No customs union. Get us out, she screams. And I suspect she's reaching for the drinks cabinet as I speak, because she's had enough. Pamela says, oh, for God's sake, why don't we just walk away now on our own terms? That is getting more tempting, Pamela. And actually, I have to say that when I'm out and about on the street, increasingly, I sort of stop at the petrol station or whatever it may be, that's what people are saying to me. You know, why are we waiting? Why is it taking so long? And what the government did today was to make sure it's going to take a hell of a lot longer. Tony from Wimbledon is my next caller. Good evening.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
Well, I'm a little bit upset today, but I say that. I'm not surprised, Tony. You know, I wrote this 2 or 3 weeks ago. I felt there was a Brexit betrayal going on, and it's now become official government policy.
Well, I'll start off by saying it really is a pleasure to speak to you, and I say pleasure as someone who voted Remain, but also recognising the fact in terms of what you've done, you know, what you've personally done in terms of bringing us to this current position. Now, when the campaign itself was run, I don't want to revisit the campaign and re-debate it, but when it was run, people said that this is going to be complex and it's going to be hard and it's not an easy thing to do. But I remember you clearly saying, you and others saying, you know, we'll get our freedom back, you know, we'll be in control, and it's something we can do very, very quickly and easily.
Yes.
I think the reality and what's becoming very clear is this is not an easy thing to do. This is incredibly complex. This is one of the most complex things we as a nation are ever undertaking. And that's the reason why, even though the people leading Brexit, the likes of David Davis and the likes of, you know, Liam Fox and all those Brexiters, they want us to leave. And yet, even with that passion and that verve they want us to leave, they're doing things like these transition deals, which just shows the complexity of what we need to deliver.
Well,
so,
Tony, there is a lot to this.
Can I just make one question to you? Do you accept that this is incredibly complex and this may actually take 5+, 10+ years before we actually deliver it? Are you willing to accept that and say that to the nation?
Tony, imagine that we were a giant business and we were employing huge numbers of people and we had, you know, hundreds of thousands of shareholders that we had to account to. And there was, for reasons, unexpected reasons, a dramatic change in our trading conditions. The argument would not be coming from the accounts department, that this is all desperately complex. It's going to take us 5 or 10 years to sort this out, because you go bankrupt. And I'm afraid, Tony, yes, of course it's complex, but more important than that, it's important. You know, it is the most important thing we're going to have to do in our lifetimes. But the argument that it all takes forever, you know, Cameron telling us, oh, well, of course, you know, and a new trade deal could take 10 years or longer. Interesting, isn't it? It's all about attitude, Tony. It's all about can do or not. And when you see that Australia, for argument's sake, negotiated a trade deal with the United States of America, the negotiating phase of which took 10 months from start to finish, you begin to understand that the argument we get from professional bureaucrats and career politicians that this should all take forever, frankly, isn't good enough. And, Tony, I repeat my point that it was 9 months from the day we voted Brexit before we even triggered Article 50. There's a 2-year period, you know, during which Article 50 gets dealt with, and now they want several more years. Tony, it just isn't good enough.
Please do let me come back on this, Nigel.
I'm letting you.
So it's a good analogy you've used, except it's highly simplified, and B, it's unrealistic. We are not an organisation. We're not a company that has an accounts department. We're an incredibly complex country with different rules, regulations that we need to abide by. We don't just report to we don't just tell the accounting department what to do. We have to satisfy the needs of a myriad of different requirements. And your whole point around how long it takes to negotiate a contract, yes, in some cases it's taken a few months to a year to do, but in reality, the average deal takes years to negotiate. So I think you need to be honest with the people. A lot of the people listening to this call listen to you, and they use you as a guiding star, North Star.
Well, Tony, if your points are right, Tony,
it's not as easy as you've made it sound.
But I worry, Tony, hang on. I worry that what actually is happening, what really is going on, is that complexity is being used as an argument by many in our political class to try and delay this forever and effectively stop Brexit from happening. And there are, voices out there, the Vince Cables of this world, and some in the Labour Party, being very clear and saying, we don't want Brexit to happen at all. We feel there's now a chance for us to stay in. Tony, I thank you very much for your call. And Tony making a very good point that this is not straightforward. It's not easy. But I do not see much vision from our government, let alone, and all we've discussed so far is the EU. We'll talk in a little bit about the rest of the world, perhaps. Elizabeth in Shrewsbury, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. I think that those of us that voted no, the first round of what was supposed to be just a common market,
yes,
remembers that this country is actually great.
Yeah.
And I think that what Theresa May et al. Have tried to do as Remainers is go against the wishes of 17.4 million people.
Yep.
Now, Vince Cable insulted us by calling us recently the equivalent of jihadis.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Yes, and I took great exception to be called a murderer because I wanted my country back.
Yeah.
But I think that the Conservative Party need to remember who their masters are, and that is the voters. And that there are many Conservative MPs with wafer-thin majorities. Now, if they try to do this, however many sound bites they put out from Philip Hammond or Liam Fox or Theresa May from her 3-week walking holiday, I predict that if they do not follow the will of the British people, there will be uprisings in this country the like have never been seen. We need to leave, and leave as quickly as we can.
Yeah, well, unless Theresa May gets a grip on this and a grip on her own party, of course, she can just keep on walking, can't she, for years and years to come. Elizabeth, I'm with you, and I don't think that the London Commentariat and most of our political class actually understand just how strong passions are out there round the country. People who voted Brexit, many of them believed it with their heart and soul, and they are going to be, Elizabeth, I agree with you, absolutely more than furious. They'll want action if it's not delivered. Elizabeth, I thank you for your call. Nigel, Theresa May couldn't run a church fete, let alone the Brexit negotiations, says Laura from Essex. Well, it just would be nice, Laura, if she was actually here with this important government paper coming out. Looks to me like Philip Hammond really is the Prime Minister, and he's in charge, and I bet he was very happy with the announcements today. And as for Brussels, well, most people in Brussels, of course, are on southern Mediterranean beaches, but those that were in the European Commission building today, I bet the pubs are doing a roaring trade in Brussels tonight. They have got the whip hand over us. They are calling the shots at every stage of this. Now, Jan thinks on Facebook that David Davis is doing this just to show that we're coming across as fair and reasonable in the knowledge that the EU won't accept this anyway. Jan, you may be right. I hope you're right. But, you know, Yanis Varoufakis, who was the Greek finance minister, the man who famously walked up Downing Street wearing a sort of leather donkey jacket, a way-out Marxist, and a believer in the European project, wrote a book that was published earlier this year in which he said there is no point negotiating with these people. These guys are bullies. These guys always want to get their own way. So the longer this goes on, the more the calls there will be in this country for us simply to walk away and trade on, you know, with tariffs being charged both ways and get on with it. And I did talk about, and I want people to think about this, I feel that what's happened today is our standing in the world has been diminished. Why do I say that? Because in the wake of Brexit, with all these countries from all over the world queuing up, wanting to do business with us, and we've said today, we're not serious about that. We can't start trading with you freely now for many years to come. And do you know what they'll think? Why should we bother with the Brits? 1 minute, they tell us it's game on. The next they say, oh no, you're going to have to wait several years. I think this reduces our credibility and our standing in the world. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live from London. It's 7:30 and time for the news with Moira Alderson.
Theresa May says the broader social questions posed by the Grenfell Tower fire won't go unanswered, even though they won't be considered by the public inquiry. It'll focus on what caused the fire, the actions of the authorities in the aftermath, and the adequacy of building regulations. Government plans for trade arrangements with the European Union after Brexit have been described as shambolic by a Labour MEP. One option includes a transitional customs union arrangement to keep goods moving freely. BT is getting rid of half of its phone boxes in the UK. 20,000 will go over the next 5 years. The firm says more than half of the boxes now lose money. LBC weather, any showers should clear to leave a fine evening across much of the UK. Some rain for Northern Ireland by the morning, an overnight low of 14 degrees.
LBC Travel. Well, South West trains are severely disrupted after a train derailed early this morning, plus the ongoing major engineering works, of course. Passengers are being advised to avoid Waterloo Station for the rest of today and tomorrow because of additional delays and cancellations. There's also no service from Waterloo to Twickenham and Brentford after an issue with the points earlier. Onto the roads then. In Kent, the M2 is queuing eastbound between Junction 2 for Strood and Junction 3 for Rochester. It's down from 4 lanes to just 2 to deal with a collapsed manhole. It also means the entry slip at Strood is shut. In West London, the A4 in Hounslow is slow eastbound approaching Vicarage Farm Road, where the inside lane is shut to deal with a fuel spillage. And in the West Midlands, the northbound M6 has a lane shut near Junction 5 for Castle Bromwich to recover an accident, leaving delays on the approach back to the M42. LBC Travel, I'm Andy Lake.
This is LBC.
Landlords, Direct Line guarantees to beat other insurers' renewal premiums for the same cover. Can your insurance do that? Switch to Direct Line Landlord. New customers only. Qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Sometimes it can be hard to keep your show on the road, but new Car Genie from the AA makes things easier. Car Genie helps predict and prevent breakdowns. Just plug it into your car and it will warn you and us if there's a potential problem. That should keep you rolling. New Car Genie from the AA, because anything can happen. Compatible vehicles only. Check the AA.com for details.
Moving house, nightmare. I need a plasterer, plumber, electrician, builder, painter, locksmith, gardener, and somebody to move my valuables, the drinks trolley. Relax, relax. It's Trust a Trader. They have all the tradespeople you can think of, reputable and reviewed, so you always get a job well done. Well done me, I say, for getting it all sorted. I shall reward myself with a cheeky tipple from the trolley. Chin chin, pass me the gin. Visit trustatrader.com.
New Sky Sports is here. So now all our Sky TV customers can get our brand new channel dedicated to the Premier League for £18 a month. With 126 live games and a new weeknight debate show. Exciting, eh, Gary? If you don't have Sky TV, bundles start from £22 a month. Search New Sky Sports today to get our new Premier League channel.
Unbelievable!
Cancellation requires 31 days notice. New Sky TV customers, £20 setup fee, 18-month contract.
Your future is here. The Global Academy in Hayes is a state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Find out more at globalacademy.com.
Are you confused about PPI? At PPI Hotline, we want to give you the facts. There is absolutely every reason to check you had PPI. Even if you think you never have, we can help you find out, as you could be owed thousands. And now there's a deadline. We just need the name of the bank you've had loans or credit cards with, and we'll check for free. So find out now if you're owed by texting WIN to 82222.
PPI Hotline. Text WIN to 82222.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
Well, David Davis is out there today telling us that we have to stay in some form of custom union for years to come after we've officially left the European Union. I'm not happy about it. I think it is part of the great Brexit betrayal. Others think perhaps it's a clever negotiating tactic. Others think maybe it's the pragmatic thing to do. But a quick comment if I can. We covered and we debated extensively on this programme the Charlie Gard case and the terrible situation that Chris Gard and Connie Yates, his parents, were in. And today there is an announcement that the £1.13 million that people donated to set up, money to try and help Charlie go to America to get treatment is now being turned into the Charlie Gard Foundation to help other children with rare diseases. And I think that's a very fitting thing for that money to do. And more than that, a statement from the parents says, we also intend on becoming a hub of information for parents who may find themselves in a similar situation like ours. There needs to be more clarity for parents about parental rights when it comes to making life-saving decisions about their children. And that, I think, is an incredibly brave thing of them to have done. They're basically saying, if you get caught in the trap that we found ourselves in, please get in touch, please talk to us. And, good for them, because at the end of all of that, and we said all through it that none of us medically were frankly qualified to speak about this case, but at the end of the day it was about parental rights, and I still think they should have been able to take their child to America 6-8 months ago. I'm not saying it would have worked, but I do still feel it was their right to do so. Back to the great Brexit debate and all sorts of comments coming in. Some of them are even clean enough to read out on live radio. Brian from Exeter says, are you going to get engaged in politics again, or are you going to just stick to doing your radio show? Brian, I'll give you the answer to that before the end of the show. This is becoming the kind of Brexit that nobody wanted and nobody voted for. We need a general election soon, or better still, a new Prime Minister, says Stephen in Birmingham. Well, I don't think the public are in any mood for another general election. Honestly, I don't. And Cecil makes a great point on Facebook, and it echoes one that we heard earlier. He says, I was actually encouraged by the proposals today in that it puts the ball firmly in the EU's court. And if they say no way, then we can simply walk away. Well, fine, Cecil, but, they're saying the reaction we're getting today from them is they won't even engage with this because they want us to agree to a Brexit bill, etc., etc., etc. And I wouldn't be surprised, Cecil, if David Davis, in his heart, might not agree with what you've just suggested. That David Davis may think, right, the clever way to play this is for us to be generous in every way we possibly can be. And if they are absolutely behave like many of us think they will, then we simply say, goodbye, we're off, we're not paying any more money, we're gone, we'll trade with you on WTO terms and open ourselves up to the rest of the world. Even if David Davis himself thinks that, the British Cabinet and governing party doesn't. And that's the problem here. The real problem to getting clarity over Brexit is that actually the majority of the Conservative Party in the Commons, not in the country, but in the Commons, never really wanted us to leave. And that's, I feel very strongly about that. Jim from Pontypridd, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel.
Now, Wales, of course, we were always told, Jim, that, Wales would, of course, because Carwyn Jones told me, when I did a debate with him in Cardiff, that Wales, of course, would vote firmly to remain in the European Union. And
Carwyn Jones is a prat.
Hang on, we haven't quite got to the watershed yet, Jim. But, of course, Wales did vote to leave, did it not?
It did, and we are still of that mind. What we want is action.
Yes.
We have had people talking, and you yourself quit halfway through the job. And
25 years wasn't bad, Jim, was it?
No, you went through, you were a prime mover in Brexit before the referendum.
Yep.
You achieved that, and then walked away and left the Conservatives to sort it out.
Well, Jim, had they asked me to play a role in it, I would have done. But I'm beginning to see today why they would never have asked me in the first place.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have liked to have been the ambassador to the United States, but never mind about that.
Well, that was a slightly separate thing, but it was a fun idea for the president, certainly. But, Jim, tell me, as somebody who wants action, how are you feeling tonight, knowing that we're going to stay in a form of custom union for some years after we officially leave the European Union?
Same as I felt since the 24th of June last year, when we didn't stop the money and walk away. Sick to death.
Okay, so Jim, you're of the opinion we just walk and don't waste our time, yeah?
Absolutely, and on the way we ditch the remoting MPs who are undemocratic. They don't believe in democracy any more than the Queen does.
Oh no, Jim, you're quite wrong about that. They do believe in democracy. Vince Cable and others do believe in democracy when the result goes their way. Jim from Pontypridd, whose views on this were fairly clear. Chris from Blackheath, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
I'm all right. So is this the wise thing to have done today, or is it part of a betrayal?
It's not part of a betrayal.
Okay.
What today, Nigel? Today is what? The 70th anniversary of partition in India?
Yes.
So India became an independent country today,
yep.
I believe, and Pakistan yesterday.
Yes.
Now, if you sit there and if Jinnah was alive today, would Jinnah be sitting there and saying, this is the Pakistan that I envisage? I can't even say the word now, but you know what I mean.
I don't think he would, no.
Right, exactly. So, Nigel, you're in a position of being able to take your disciples with you and say, look, guys, slow down. We want the best for the country. But instead, what you're doing is you're stoking the fire, you're stoking the flames and saying, oh, it's a betrayal, it's a betrayal. It's not a betrayal. We had this conversation about 2 weeks ago.
Actually, Chris, let me just say this to you. I was very frustrated that it took 9 months to trigger Article 50 when David Cameron had told us it would be triggered immediately. But I did, Chris, actually accept the Article 50 process. I accepted that under this treaty, this is the process, the legal process that we ought to go down. And I have said that OK, if it does take 2 years, it takes 2 years. I hope we can get it done quicker. My problem now, Chris, is this. 9 months to trigger it, 2 years to be part of it, and now 2 or 3 years, or goodness knows how long after that. I'm not trying to stoke the fires, but and I've also, Chris, by the way, been reasonable about the settlement, accepting we have obligations up to the middle of 2020. I have actually been reasonable about this, but I now begin to get the suspicion that there are many, Chris, in our political class who want to just kick this down the road forever and ever and ever in the hope that it won't happen.
Okay, can I come back now?
You certainly can.
Right, okay, so you mentioned earlier on, I was in Sainsbury's at the time, and I'm now cooking the dinner in the kitchen.
Right.
You mentioned earlier on, okay, so if my wife comes in and has a pop at me, just mute it, okay? Right, but you mentioned earlier on that if it was a business,
yep.
We wouldn't have done this. Business and politics are two separate things and never the twain shall meet. Hence, that's the reason why your friend in America is having such a problem, because he tries to run the country like it's a business. You can't do that. And at the same time, as what you said there about, I've been reasonable, you can't be reasonable with politics. It takes a long time. You can't rush things.
Well, why is it, Chris? Why is it, Chris? I mean, and I've heard the arguments about complexity and how difficult it all is. Why is it that little countries like Singapore, South Korea, Chile, Switzerland, and indeed the slightly bigger Australia, how is it that these countries are able to negotiate and conclude trade deals all over the world in, a fraction of the time that it took the European Union to have a trade deal with Canada? And Chris, the reason I use the business analogy is that if you're a well-paid civil servant, it actually suits your book to say, gosh, this is complex, sir. It's going to take years and years. Do you know, it may even see me through to my pension. That's the point I'm making, Chris, is I just sense there's a lack of urgency. And I also sense, Chris, and I've been interested to get your take on this, I also sense there is a lack of genuine vision from our Prime Minister, that they're still obsessing about the deal we're going to get with the European Union rather than our place in the world in a few short years.
I disagree with you there. I think because you are not privy to the information that they're privy to, you're just telling it from a small point of view, a very minute, tiny point of view.
Well, I don't know about that.
More than what you do. No, Nigel, and I'm not being honest. Normally, I can't, and I've told you before I can't stand you, but I like talking to you. God knows the reason why. But I'll tell you this.
I should be doing counselling, perhaps, shouldn't I, Chris?
Well, I don't. Not for me. Honestly, I can see it now. I'd come out voting because I'd say remain 10 times.
I'm enjoying this. Do go on.
So what I'm saying is this. This is our country. We had the athletics the other day. We are a united country, but if you're going to tear us apart, or you're going to be one of the proponents who will tear us apart, if you want this to be rushed, it cannot be rushed. And everybody sits there and says the will of the people and all those old cliches. Okay, I don't want us to leave, but if we are going to leave, let's do it the proper way. Right. And you should be there, champion that. Let's do it the proper way.
Chris, I want it done the proper way, and they're now delaying, and I'm pretty hacked off with them. Chris, a pleasure, as always, to have you on the show, and Chris makes the point, this is our country. I agree, Chris, and I want us to govern it. I really do. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Rail commuters are to be hit by the biggest fare rises for 5 years. So do you think travelling by train could ever be good value?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Landlords, Direct Line guarantees to beat other insurers' renewal premiums for the same cover. Can your insurance do that? Switch to Direct Line Landlord. New customers only. Qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Successful investing can seem like a bit of a mystery, but many ordinary people have now learned how to use the stock markets to earn a second income without a second job. Online Trading Academy has taught thousands of people how to use its approach over 2 decades. The face-to-face workshops are delivered by down-to-earth presenters using know-how from financial institutions and outlines the plan to make profits, whether the markets go up or down. Whether you want to retire in style, put kids through university, or just increase your income, today Online Trading Academy London is offering a free investing kit so you can start learning how to improve your finances. No prior knowledge is necessary. Just go to otalondon.com or call 0800 088 5462 and get 2 free videos and a helpful guide. Plus, you can sign up for a free half-day workshop near you right now to help you learn how to change your financial life. Call 0800 088 5462. That's 0800 088 5462.
You'll be amazed at the transformational effect of Darwood and Tanner dental implants.
I've been wearing dentures for over 40 years. I felt very self-conscious speaking to people before, but then my dentist referred me to Darwood and Tanner.
Myra came to Darwood and Tanner with a particularly challenging case.
Mr. Darwood said it was the thinnest jawbone he had seen. It was a revolution to know that I could have implants instead of my dentures.
One of the great joys of our practice is that we're seeing patients we treated 25 years ago with dental implants, and they're still doing well, still smiling.
Start your story at darwoodandtanner.co.uk, where your implant solution is our obsession.
New Sky Sports is here. So now all our Sky TV customers can get our brand new channel dedicated to the Premier League for £18 a month. With 126 live games and a new weeknight debate show. Exciting, eh, Gary? If you don't have Sky TV, bundles start from £22 a month. Search New Sky Sports today to get our new Premier League channel.
Unbelievable!
Cancellation requires 31 days' notice. New Sky TV customers, £20 setup fee, 18-month contract.
Got the case? Yeah, but why the underground car park? We look suspicious.
Hello, can I borrow your phone? I've got a flat tyre. I don't have a signal down here.
We're busy.
I promise you I'll be really, really quick.
Get rid of him. Oi, use mine. I'm on Vodafone. 4 bars. That's not what I meant.
Outstanding indoor coverage on our most reliable network ever.
Lovely briefcase, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Vodafone. Power to you.
For verification, see vodafone.co.uk/network.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
We're staying part of a customs union deal with the European Union for many, many years to come. I'm not happy about it. I see it as a betrayal. Some others think it's a good idea because business wants it. Some think it's a cunning plan. That actually what Davis wants to do is to show how reasonable we are so that when they reject it, we can simply walk away. And I've made the point, even if David Davis himself wants that, I can't see the British Cabinet actually ever doing it. Interestingly, though, what about Labour? Fred asks me, is Jeremy Corbyn happy the Brits are being stitched up again? Well, Fred, it's very interesting. The Labour Party have been pretty quiet on this today. Chris Leslie, late last night on Newsnight, saw this as a good sign, the government paper. He hoped we could begin the reversal of the whole Brexit process. And Keir Starmer today, and indeed the International Shadow Trade Minister, Bill Esterton, have been, shall we say, vague on where they stand on the customs union. So the Prime Minister is on holiday, and Her Majesty's loyal opposition are, at best, vague. I get a very interesting one here. Nigel, I've given up my bridge evening tonight to listen to you, as this is the most important piece of strategy the government has voiced. It is, all of which makes it the more surprising that the Prime Minister isn't out there leading the charge on this. Are we between the devil and the deep blue sea? Both Tories and Labour are Remainers, says Brian in Plymouth. Well, that's what the referendum exposed, wasn't it? It was the gap, the gulf between the political class and ordinary people in this country. And let me tell you something, that hasn't got better. In fact, the numbers of people who now want Brexit to happen are way bigger than the 52% who voted in that referendum. Hi, Nigel. Davis has set out his policy today, but what is the EU response to it? Well, Andrew on Twitter has sent that. Basically, Verhofstadt has said, you simply can't have it, and Barnier's department have said, well, you know, we're not even going to talk about trade until you've told us how much ransom money, how much the exit bill is going to be from the European Union. So, however hard we try with these people, in my view, they are very, very unreasonable. Others take a different view. Jeff, who on Twitter identifies as part of the 48%, says, when will you all realise the only ones to benefit from Brexit are the rich elite that the people hate? Well, Jeff, my view is that you're looking through the wrong end of the telescope. It is actually the rich established elites that would have done anything they could to keep us as part of this union. Kevin in Bridgend. We're heading to South Wales again and again tonight. Kevin, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel.
So
I did like the last caller's comment. I can't stand you, but I enjoyed talking to you.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm not sure whether that was a victory for me or for talk radio or actually for the democratic process. Because isn't the point of democracy that rather than physically fighting each other, we talk to each other? And the worry is that when you take democracy away from people, that perhaps they might turn to other means. So we're going to try and keep it clean, Kevin, and we will with you as well.
Yeah. It's true, but I have a problem, because on the balance I am a slight Remainer, but now, post-referendum, I am absolutely a Remoaner. And really, my complaint is the referendum was effectively a fundamental change of the Constitution, and as such I would have hoped for a far higher threshold than a simple majority. America's got more stringent rules, and most companies in the world operate on a higher threshold.
Yes, and I mean,
don't get me wrong.
Kevin, I get the point, Kevin, but surely that argument should have applied back in the 1970s, shouldn't it?
Well, it was higher in the percentage anyway. But yes, I think it should. But I was too young to vote at that time, so I didn't. So, but my point is, Cameron made a fundamental mistake, right? He did make a mistake about the whole thing. Nobody really practically thought that that this campaign would end up in a Brexit. Congratulations to your campaign. Congratulations to Boris's campaign. Absolute brilliant strategy. You won. You did win the vote. Now that we're at this position now, the people who didn't vote, and there are a lot out there, who are absolutely desperate that they'd like another referendum. Now, I know that 34% of the population needs another referendum, but we don't know where that balance of vote goes. Now, everybody who has won this referendum, i.e. Brexiteers, says, oh, we can't have another vote, we can't have another vote. There are the rest of us, the Ramonas, if you like, and I dislike huge amounts of what the European Union represents. I'm not blind to this, but I would really like to see what people would vote now. My theory
well, Kevin, we do have some polling on this, and YouGov particularly has done a lot of work on this. And the last one I saw was that 70% of people now thought, however they felt on June 23rd last year, that the government should now simply get on with it. So there is now an acceptance, and it's interesting how status quo's reverse. The status quo view in the country now is that we voted to leave and we should jolly well do it.
Well, the thing is, right, you can say that, and there can be tons of polls and whatever, and, the fact is, if that is the case, have the confidence of your conviction, and let's have another referendum. And once that referendum is done, it is absolutely clear that the government should be kicked to wherever to get it done.
But how? I mean, Kevin, this referendum wasn't the best of three. We were told by the Prime Minister it was the great decision we'd take in our lifetimes. And I have to say this, Kevin, had Remain won 52-48, the prospects of us ever having another referendum would have been pretty much zippity. Kevin, I have seen the Irish bullied in second referendums. I've seen the Danes bullied in second referendums. I just don't think it's good enough, frankly.
It is, right? Let me put it like this. If the vote was 52-48 to Remain, what would be happening now is Boris and yourself would be absolutely in Europe demanding everything left, right and centre to change. Because it is very plausible that we could have had a Brexit vote. Now what we're left is everything's, as far as I'm concerned, it's all up in the air. It's a bit of a mess. If it was possible that we could have left the European Union, we could have made a better European Union. Unfortunately...
Well, we tried, Kevin. We did try. We did try for 40 years to reform the European Union, and Mrs. Thatcher tried, and it cost her a job. Tony Blair tried. He failed too. Kevin, I thank you. A passionate Ramona. Dave says the great Brexit betrayal has started, but the Tories are deluded if they think they'll get away with it. Michelle says, unfortunately, we aren't going to leave the EU. Most of the politicians don't want us to leave. No, Michelle, we're going to have to force them somehow. Peter says, so sick of this all being drawn out. Actually hearing we might change our minds in 3 years and have another vote makes me sick. Grow some and get out. William says, Ramonas think we're not leaving. Ha ha. They're going to be so disappointed. Actually, William, there are more Brexit voters that now think we might not leave. So cynical are they about our political leaders. Tolga in Enfield, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you doing?
So, is this a pragmatic, sensible thing, or are we being let down terribly?
Well, once again, let down. Have we really, I've called you before and I've said this, have we really forgotten democracy? I mean, Vince Cable, who I have no time for, insulting the older voters is another story. But, Nigel, here's a surprise. We did not vote for a transitional period.
No, we did not.
I could understand a few months when we voted to leave.
Yeah.
But anything more than that, it's just unacceptable. And what part of leave did they not understand?
All of it.
Theresa May, what she needs to do is... exactly. Theresa May, what she needs to do is get a grip on Brexit, get a grip of her own party and deliver what 52% of United Kingdom voted for. Or there could be consequences.
Yeah, no, I know, I get that. Tolga, I get that, I understand that. My last caller, very quickly, is Andrew from Gospel Oak. Good evening.
Evening, Nigel. Let's have a best of 13 referendum.
Yeah,
shall we?
keep going forever, shall we? Absolutely.
29. Yeah. I'd just like to say I think that David Davis is to date doing pretty well from what I hear, and as a passionate Brexiteer, a member of UKIP, I'd like to say the clock is ticking for both sides. There's an awful lot of German exporters who are wondering where they're going to send their goods to fairly soon. Are they, in about 15 months' time, going to have to lay off employees from the production line?
Exactly.
Are they?
Exactly. Andrew, you make a brilliant point. I've got to end it there. You make a brilliant point. The idea that business and trade only happens because we have a huge European Commission building in Brussels is a total willful misinterpretation of how the world has always worked. Now, I was asked earlier on by Brian in Exeter, am I going to get engaged in politics again or stick to my radio show? Well, Brian, at the moment, I'm rather enjoying the radio show and the debate. It's fun. Leading a political party isn't fun, but I stand by my pledge and my promise. If at the end of this process we haven't got the Brexit that we wanted, we haven't got the Brexit that we deserve, I would have no choice in those circumstances but to head back to the front lines of battle. We're not there yet, but today was very much a step, in my view, in the wrong direction. Frankly, it is not good enough to constantly being told we have to wait and wait and wait. Dither, delay, weak leadership, lack of vision, a reduction of our standing in the world with all those countries that want to trade with us. And, to echo Tolga, we didn't vote for this. We didn't vote for transitional arrangements, didn't vote for open borders, didn't vote to give away our money, did not vote for the European Court of Justice to continue to have say. We're going to get very angry if this continues. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show on LBC, live from London. I'm back tomorrow evening from 7 o'clock. Coming up at